Morning. Morning.
Morning. Hi, Brent.
Megan, I'm going to be at the meeting for about 25 minutes before I have to get to my other meeting.
Oh, okay, great. We're going to do the capital first.
Yep.
Good morning.
Oh, I think we're all here.
Excellent.
Awesome. Very efficient, everybody. Hi, welcome. Good morning.
Morning.
Apologize for the background noise if there is any. On my end, I'll try to mute when I'm not talking. So we'll get started. Welcome to the Capital Budget Committee meeting of Friday, November 7th. And we're all participating remotely, so we'll do roll call votes and identify ourselves, starting with Mark Fisher.
I'm Mark Fisher, and I'm participating remotely.
Brent?
Brent Nelson, participating remotely.
Michael?
Michael LaFrancesca participating remotely.
Artie?
Artie Georgopoulos participating remotely.
Eileen?
Eileen Murphy attending remotely.
And Rob?
Rob Egler attending remotely.
Okay, if you see Katie pop in, Brittany, we promote her. Okay, thank you. I don't see her here yet. Okay, excellent. So the first things on our agenda are the minutes. The October 24th minutes aren't quite right just yet. So I will work on that for our next meeting, but the minutes of October 31st. Anyone have any suggestions for those?
Just double check. Give me 1 second. I know one of these set of meeting minutes, let's see, is it this one right here? Yeah, give me 1 second. So the meeting minutes from 1 second. From 31st has you making a motion to end the meeting, and you can't technically do that.
Oh, very good. Gee, I didn't write it down. Does anybody recall?
I can look again and get the right person if you want to approve it with that edit.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go most likely Mark motioned and I seconded it. I'm just gonna go with the pattern.
Probably the case. I know. I'm usually quick off the gun there. Yeah.
Which we really appreciate. Okay, Katie says she's on her way. Something's up with her computer. So that's good. Okay, so are people comfortable with that?
Mhm.
And if
Yes.
so, would somebody make a motion and we'll take copious notes?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mark, for moving. And a second?
Yes, I second it.
Eileen, thank you for the second. Okay, and all in favor, I'll do a roll call vote. Mark?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Michael LaFrancesca?
Yes.
Artie?
Yes.
Eileen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Okay, great. And I realized I didn't identify myself, Megan Sullivan, participating remotely. Okay, we were going to come back and review the capital budget request. We had a couple questions that went out. I think Brittany has answers for us. First question was about the sweeper and whether a larger refurbishment could be helpful. So let's start there.
Sure. So I talked to Mo to kind of ask the different scenarios that we could maybe hobble along the sweeper if possible. It sounds like, and in his words, that it wouldn't be a good use of money to do that for the sweeper. The amount of money that you would have to put in wouldn't necessarily guarantee us even 2 years. And so he did not think that that would be a good use of the capital budget's money, is to try to hobble along the sweeper at this point.
Okay, excellent. And the lead time on a sweeper?
To about 3 months. So not as long as some of those other larger pieces of equipment. So 3 months is what they're looking at once you order it.
Oh, that's not bad.
Okay, that was one question. And then I think the second question's actually, Michael, I'm glad you're here, were whether, if you went back, is there anything that you would or could or cut if we needed to?
Yeah, I did speak to the superintendent, and I spoke to also Owen. They said, both agreed that we had to cut. We could cut the cameras. I think it was about $25,000. And we would try to apply again through the state for a grant. We applied the last 2 years. We didn't get it the last 2 years, but we would apply again to see if we would qualify for that.
Okay, thank you for checking into that for us. Just to restate the context of where we were, right? We had talked through the available roll forward money and what was likely coming from free cash, if anything, for the capital budget, and wanted to target a budget. Like ideally, we'd be targeting a capital budget that was maybe $950,000. And at the end of our deliberations, I think we were looking at $1.2 million. And I'm happy to report that we had a little error in our formula. And I have found us $100,000. How about that? So actually, we're looking at, with the projects that we have in this spreadsheet, which are the ones we talked about last week, adding in the contingency, we would be looking at a capital stabilization fund request right now of 113,752, which is, about $200,000 more than we had wanted, $200,000 more than we had wanted. I think at the end of the last meeting, there was really a reluctance to kind of tackle this further, but I want to kind of open that conversation up and see if at the moment, if people are comfortable moving this forward to the warrant committee at that amount, 113,752. And I'm happy to review anything that's on here to refresh people's memories. I realize that I have this spreadsheet and it was not in the packet.
I
Any
personally am
thoughts?
comfortable moving forward.
I am too. It certainly doesn't seem gluttonous. Folks are asking for what seems to be the bare minimum. Keep the streets clean, make sure everything's working the right way. Roads. To me, it's a very lean request. I'm comfortable.
And I'd have to agree too, with everyone, I'd be very reluctant to cut it any less than that, because then we're just delaying things that are going to cost us more money next year, the year after.
Okay, so hearing that's where we are, I will Brittany, shall I say everything that we're thinking of approving individually? Shall I come up with some totals and ask for at the end, ask for a motion, refer to this spreadsheet? What would be the best way?
I would say maybe we do it by department.
Okay.
I mean, we could do it by project too, I suppose, but that might take a little bit longer. You could list out the projects that are being approved in each department.
Okay, everybody comfortable with that? So I will list out the projects being proposed, then I guess somebody else will make a motion to approve them. And
Megan,
then,
are you going to put the spreadsheet up?
oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It just helped me to see it.
I am busy looking at it, thinking you are also looking at it, but no, how's that? There we go. I'm so sorry.
Right.
Hold on, bad gateway, this one. There we go. Can y'all see it?
Yes.
Okay, so it's this column D. Thank you for asking, Artie. Goodness. Okay, then ready? Good. Okay, so we are talking about moving forward, assessing software from, and unless I say otherwise, it's from the Capital Stabilization Fund. How's that? 17,950 for software. For the Department of Public Works, $330,000 for a sweeper, $71,500 for a Ford 250 pickup truck. Continuing to fund the pavement management across town for $185,000. Fire Department, I think I'll just list them all. I've got it started here. So this is funded off the tax levy, but the $48,095 for the lease for the engine 3. Replace car 3 for the fire department for $73,122. The under truck wash will be funded from the ALS revolving fund for $11,592. Replace a line cruiser vehicle for the police department for $85,000. For the IT school infrastructure and hardware, $300,000. And for town department computer and server upgrades, $30,000. Network switch replacements, $7,000. Town Wi-Fi infrastructure improvements, $13,000. All right, and that is just FYI, largely the capital stabilization fund. And then there are these items from the water enterprise fund retained earnings. $90,000 for water main replacement engineering. Water lateral replacements on Pleasant Street, that's $160. The Ford F-550, $162,800. From the sewer department, from retained earnings, project design of $150,000. On Harding Street, infrastructure repairs, they're going to reallocate water treatment plant funding for $1,500,000. Wastewater treatment plant, gravity flotation replacement, enterprise fund retained earnings for $420,000. In addition, we have a contingency that are planning to fund for $25,000 from the capital stabilization fund. So total projects on our list are $3,680,059 coming from these funding sources. $1,137,572 from capital stabilization, $48,095 from the tax levy, $11,592 from the ALS revolving fund, $412,800 from the water enterprise fund, $570,000 from the sewer enterprise fund, and $1,500,000 for reallocation of a bond. I think those details cover things. Artie.
I think Michael mentioned the cameras. Were those taken out or are those still in? I couldn't remember.
I did not adjust that number.
Okay, so they're still in.
They're still in.
Got it.
I think
Thank you.
we would use that if we have to come back and cut.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay.
Is the capital stabilization fund balance, that's the actual brought forward from fiscal expected brought forward from fiscal 2026?
We have we're starting here with 2,179. And if we appropriate this number,
2 million, yeah.
oh, 2,179,544. We appropriate 1
I
million.
can't, I'm sorry, I can't see where you're going here. Okay. Okay.
Can you see this?
Now I can see it. So the beginning is $1,270,000.
2,170,000, 2,179,000. Oh yeah,
Excuse.
you're
Okay,
right. We rolled forward into the balance of the fund at the beginning of planning for next year is $1,270,000. Last week at the warrant committee meeting,
Yes.
they anticipated being able to give us $900,000 from free cash. From some projects that closed out was $8,706. So with a total of 2,179.
Okay.
That is a screenshot. This is then that number coming forward. At the
Okay,
moment, we're
that's a
looking.
little, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just go ahead.
The 2,179,000, at the moment, the project appropriations are 1,137,572. That's this number up here. And leaving us a balance at the end of the year of 1,041,972. Which is in 1 year is not too terrible, because it sounds like that's basically the amount we've been spending. But if you start to roll that forward and we only have free cash of $700,000 coming in, then that number doesn't really, we don't have a self-sustaining, system here.
Okay, maybe it was just a presentation here on the screen that I'm seeing right now. Okay.
Do you have a question or something else I can clarify? Again, I'm sorry, you don't have this in your hands.
Okay, I guess maybe because all right. All right, I'm just having trouble, going back and forth in it, that's all.
What are you going back and forth between?
What the spreadsheet I'm seeing on my screen right now. Okay. Well,
I'm happy to further clarify. I realize I'm very
Maybe-
familiar with the how it all works and everything.
So, okay, so basically what we had from what you had sent us before today, or is the same as what I'm seeing here.
Mhm.
Right?
I don't know that you got a copy of this after last week.
With the 10/31/2025.
Right, this is what we looked at last week, but I don't know that I actually ever put a copy in your hands.
Oh, okay. Okay, but we'll move on. That's okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then would somebody like to make a motion to move those forward to the warrant committee?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor? We'll do a roll call vote. I'll go by what's on my screen. Artie,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
and I am a yes. Okay, excellent. Good work, everybody. We will see how that plays out with the warrant committee. Brent, maybe you and I can talk about whether we need to send a letter, a cover letter, covers a few of the things, or you just like to report it, but look forward to being in touch with them on this topic.
Hey, Megan,
Yes?
was there a number, I could probably go back, I might have missed the first meeting. Was there a number that we started with for FY 27 project appropriations? And obviously we know where we ended up. What is the delta between that? Is it at least a couple $100K, right?
That's a good ask.
Oh, where we first started?
Yeah. That's a good
Yeah.
ask.
Oh, it's a good question.
The team did tremendous work, and each department head went prioritized and worked really hard to get this to where it is. I think we should appreciate
Yep.
how much they moved, and also see that moved out in years, but they worked hard on this.
Yes, I don't have the original.
Yeah, I
At hand.
can figure that out.
Thanks, Brittany.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that helps Brent's narrative when you meet Brent with the rest of your warrant committee.
I think so too.
Okay, now we will move on to hear about the proposed projects for the municipal building capital stabilization fund.
All right.
Well,
I'm gonna promote Rob and Ben. to join us. There we go.
Welcome. Hello, Ben.
Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If you guys could introduce yourselves for us, that would be helpful. I don't think we've met.
Sure. I'm Ben Jackwitz. I'm the facilities project manager. And I started January 2024. So, yeah.
Great. Great to have you here. And I see director.
Hi, Rob Quinn. I'm the Director of Facilities. I've been here a year last week.
Awesome. Welcome. Well, great to have you here. I think actually you came to the committee last year and I wasn't at that meeting. So some other people here might recognize you. Great. Would you like to walk through your budget requests?
Yeah, so thanks for having us. I'm assuming everybody has this document, FY27 draft. I don't want to read it to you, so I can just summarize, starting at the high school, building envelope, interior
Rob,
improvements.
1 second. Megan, can you put that on the screen?
Yep.
Thank you.
How's that? Everybody see it? Okay.
We all good?
We're good.
All right, so it'll be the same concept for each school building, and each town building also, with the main points of being, excuse me, building envelope, interior improvements, mechanical systems, which will include HVAC, building controls, plumbing, sprinkler, and so forth, electrical upgrades, and some grounds. You'll see that common throughout each building, like I said, on the school and on the town. And then when you get down to district-wide, paving and parking lot, we're looking for $250,000. And those funds will be used to repave, wheelock parking areas and drive lanes. And then the concept I'm trying to get around is, so you're all aware, I'm assuming that everyone's read the Arrow Street report. You all understand the condition of the buildings, the condition of the roofs. I would like to start something along the lines of $150,000 annually put towards roof replacement, much like the paving management fund that the DPW uses, with that number carried forward throughout each fiscal year if not used. So when we do go out for funding for roof replacement, which is needed, those funds can be backed out and eliminate some of the costs of what we have to go out to bid for. Much the same with HVAC equipment replacement. Again, I'm assuming you've all read the Arrow Street report. You understand the age of the equipment, the condition of the equipment, and the priority of replacement. We all know that the town can't absorb all of that at once. So it's going to need to be, in my opinion, it's going to need to be a phasing process. And again, what we're asking for is $150,000 annually, excuse me, to be put into a replacement phasing HVAC equipment. I'm assuming you're going to have a bunch of questions regarding this. I think it's probably most productive if I answer your questions rather than read this document to you.
Okay, I'll go first. I wasn't here at the meeting last year. I know it's your first year. Before last year, when we looked at the projects anticipated for this fund, they were much more specific. And I remember talking about, okay, are we going to redo the locks at Dale Street? Are we going to you know, we had specific projects that we were talking about. And this doesn't look like that to me. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, the difference.
Sure. With regards to open articles, we're going to propose to turn back $285,000+. That's between schools and town of existing articles, mainly because those articles were written so rigid that they were we really can't use them. So with that being said, we're looking to turn back $285,000+ to the town. And with regards to what you're seeing here, I will say that they're open-ended, and they're open-ended for a reason. I've been here a year. My first year was extremely reactionary, getting to know the buildings, getting to know the systems, prioritizing issues. We're still in that phase. We're still, I'm at least a year, probably 2 years, still developing and understanding what we have and how to prioritize them. I feel like, and again, I'm going to go back to the Arrow Street report. If you read the Arrow Street report, you'll understand that there's millions of dollars at each building, priority one. Now, we know we can't do all that at once. I feel it's very simple for me to give you a specific job. We'll just make these numbers up, put $250,000 on it and send it to capital, get it through the process. And yes, we'll have one shiny new piece of equipment. But the reality is there's so many needs that I feel the concept is correct the way you want to do it. But I think the timing is probably incorrect. We need the flexibility to take on multiple items at once with the goal of getting equipment that we have now, which yes, has outlived its useful life, but we need to repair it to the point where it's actually useful with the thought going forward of replacement. That's the reason why these are open-ended, because there's so many items that need to be done. I'll give you a perfect example. We rolled into this summer, which was my first summer, with the thought of replacing the carpet in the middle school auditorium to the tune of, don't hold me to the number, you know, I think it was like $15,000. Once I got into the middle school and got to understand what actually was going on and what the needs were, we shelved that project and did 5 classrooms of VCT, which served the students and the staff much better than replacing the carpet in the auditorium. Now, if I had this job specific, I wouldn't be able to access those funds. That's a simple example, but it's pretty much standard across the board right now. Now, like I said, my thought is take the funds, have it open-ended so that we can actually do work that's required that we're running into daily. And I propose that if you allow me to work this way for at least another year, at the end of the year, I could tie and show the committee, show you people or whoever you ask what the funds were used for. I could give you a spreadsheet, how every cent was spent on every article and tie it to a project. Is it easier for me to give you a few projects at 250,000? Very, very, it's much easier. This is my opinion. Running it this way, again, for at least another year, will allow facilities to get existing equipment up and operational and allow us to be fluid with how we make our decisions. I don't think that some of the priorities that were put forward in the past were exactly the right way to go. With that being said, I'm still building what I feel is most important at each building. And running the budget this way, again, fluid, allows us to do multiple small projects at once, because we all know that the local budgets are pretty much contracted services and not built for improvements.
So Megan, before I have to run off for David, department heads doing our budgets, I just want to just say that, Rob's coming in with a lot of experience, not only in the public sector. He has about 20 years in the public sector, but he also has many years in the private sector as a project manager, working on school buildings and et cetera. So, when Rob came in and we went over all the capital projects that had been approved, he did, spend the first, I would say, Rob, 3 months going through every single building, going through all those projects, and Dick, sat with myself and Jeff on the school side, and talked about areas that he had thought that we should be focusing on sooner than later, just due to systems, and what I mean by systems is, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, that kind of infrastructure of the buildings. And, as we were communicating and talking, he felt that, and Rob, jump in anytime you want, that we should be focusing on those areas. And if he had a little bit more flexibility, he would be able to get more done, and then get into a routine or system where, like, replacing a rooftop unit, for example, would be, let's say $500,000, those type of specific kind of projects. But you can't fix a rooftop unit if you don't have the correct the upgraded electrical or upgraded plumbing. All that has to get all done prior to replacing a specific unit. So all that, we both, Jeff and I, support the way that Rob put the capital projects together for the next year. We feel that once he fixes that kind of upgrade, I should say, those areas, then we can get back into replacing actual equipment in areas where need to be done, because the infrastructure underneath it now is upgraded and solid, if that makes sense to everyone.
Thank you for sharing
As
that.
well said, Michael. That absolutely is the concept that we're trying to move forward with, at least again for another year.
Brent?
Yep. Hi. Thanks for the report. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding the aggregate amount. Just doing the math myself, and maybe I did it wrong, because a couple of things seem to appear maybe in two different places. But I've got something like 1.6 million total here, and I think that if you turn back some money back into the account, that won't drain the municipal building stabilization fund, but it'll come close. So I guess I wanted to ask about, my first question is, I see $100,000 at the bottom for the green communities effort, but I also see $100,000 listed for the townhouse chiller. Is that the same $100,000? Or is that, yeah, just if you could explain those two.
I picked up on that too. So right now with green communities, we went out, we thought that we were going to have the chiller replaced over this past run, but we were denied the funding. We're going to try again. But with that being said, I had a representative, I've had multiple representatives, but just this week alone, I had a representative from, working with green communities up on the roof of the high school, reviewing multiple rooftop units that are 30-something years old, running on R22 refrigerant, and trying to put together a package where we could get, at a minimum, more efficient equipment that could serve the schools, but also with funding through green communities. The issue that we run into when you get into large pieces of equipment is electrification isn't there yet. Electrification can work for smaller units, VRF systems and so forth. But when you have a large rooftop unit, again, that's 30 plus years old, the technology isn't there for electrification. So this $100,000 that you see for green communities, I thought you know, again, I'm new, but I thought that that was a carry continually annually, so that's why that's there. But with that being said, I think that there's enough projects that we're chasing through green communities that money very easily and justifiably could be spent.
Do
Yeah.
we have to match their money? Sorry.
Sorry, if I may just jump in, and I think Rob is right. I think the problem with green communities is it falls outside of this cycle, which is really hard. We submit projects a lot of times in the spring. And so if we have an amount of money set aside for the green communities here, this helps us. There's certain projects where we do have to put some money aside and help fund. There has to be some sort of commitment on our end. And so we were talking about having some money set aside to complete those projects so that we can keep in that cycle of green community submissions every year.
Yeah, to your question, Megan, we don't have to match as the town, but it can go a long way in getting approval. They like to see that the town is taking it seriously and is willing to contribute X amount of dollars for a large scale project.
Megan, if you remember, a few years ago, we did the boiler system and the water, domestic hot water at the middle school, where we put money aside through this fund, and then Green Community came in and paid. I think they paid about 75% of those projects.
And just going back to Brent's initial question, as of right now, this list has been sort of cut down. Right now it would be 100,000 in each. But I think, and Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys have a number, a total that you guys need us to get down to, I think we can revisit the whole list and see if we can cut down to get to that bottom line number that you guys need us to.
Brittany, we do have that number. I believe it was in the warrant committee packet. It's a little bit over $1 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it would be very helpful for us to know that number. And like Ben said, work backwards from that.
Yeah, I mean, including, so we have the beginning balance. Megan, do you have the roll forward, or do you want me to?
Oh.
I don't think I have it up.
Okay, hold on one second. Let me find it. Because I was just playing with it. Hold on.
It's 1.5 according to the document that was part of the packet for this meeting.
Yep.
But that doesn't include any turn back money that's going back in.
Right. So I did put
there
the
you are.
284,448, which was what between the school and the facilities turnbacks were here. So that gives us 1,823,633 available for appropriation. Now you kind of do remember how, if you look back to what we were appropriating in previous years, you're looking, around 1.514-ish. Oops, that's 15, too many zeros. So you can see, with 1.5, that brings us down to 323. This is the one that is stable every year, goes up by 2.5% according to the select board. So without knowing, what those turnbacks would be, this is what you would then be left with next year. So you can see it does, I mean, you're going down. So I would be careful about how much you're using here, but that is with 1.5 in there, what you're looking at. So.
Well, I wouldn't. Sorry, is it okay if I ask
Please.
or suggest?
Please.
I think everything that's here is fine. The next warrant committee meeting is a week from Monday, we can certainly talk about what we just passed in terms of the other part of the capital stabilization and let them look at this. I think there was discussion about, we know the roof problem is a major one, and there was some discussion about essentially taking that off the municipal building stabilization fund and putting it into its own dedicated thing, which would require a town vote. I don't know if there's going to be appetite for that if we're already potentially going to town meeting asking for an override for operations. I think that might be a real heavy lift, but in any case, I think that discussion should be allowed to happen. That would, I think it was 250,000 or so you're setting aside to kind of accumulate for what we know are very large roof projects. You know, if we found another source of funding that over time, then the total appropriation might be more in line with sort of prudence. But I don't know what the appetite is for the warrant committee on that discussion. We started it last year, but we didn't come to any conclusion. I think also it would be useful for me personally just to know how much of what you're doing right now or proposing would be in anticipation of full electrification of these buildings, which is, you know, part of that Arrow Street report, or how much of this is independent of whether or not we actually go forward with complete decarbonization. Okay.
So I can answer that. Unfortunately, these buildings, the existing buildings, will never be full electrification. They're not built to be. So that's not going to happen. But
no, well, I figure as much, I mean, given that the price tag was something like 60 million.
Right. With that being said, our goal is to always be there. So if we replace a piece of equipment, our goal is to be most efficient. However, whatever most efficient is, it's most efficient, but it needs to work. You can't purchase a piece of equipment that looks great on paper, but doesn't serve the end user. And I'm very aware of how that works. Been doing it for some time. You'll never see that here, not in these buildings. The new Dale, maybe, but that concept is starting to fade. Anyone who's in tune with what's going on, utilities are starting to defund these projects. So it's evolving right now. They've already stopped funding EV. They're going to stop funding solar. They cut $500 per ton of refrigerant this year. They're going to cut again next year. So these electrification projects are starting to be defunded by the utilities. So that needs to be kept in the back of our mind as we move forward with these, complete upgrades.
Okay.
What percentage of the projects or the spending do you think is like maintenance versus really attacking the deferred maintenance list?
Well, deferred maintenance turns into maintenance, right? So if you defer maintenance, it becomes maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
So
like there's walk-off mats in this list. That doesn't really seem like.
So what that is, it's an infill. So you come in from exterior doors, right? It's an infill of a matting system. Where right now, if I can picture it in my head, we have this rubber product that comes off of the stairwell, comes down and ties into the doors. Well, that area is failing. But rather than have to replace that whole area, we can cut an infill in and put this matting system, which will, be cost effective and actually serve us better. That's the thought there. I hope that answers your question.
So we're not buying walk-off mats.
Oh, no.
Okay,
No.
that's what it looks like. Eileen.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm hearing what Rob's saying, what the department's saying in terms of, instead of whereas all the other departments said I need $73,000 for a truck and I need $115,000 for whatever, what I'm hearing from the team here is don't pinpoint me to an exact line item, but just give me the funds. So as I continue to peel back the onion and find these problems, I can I can spend the money as needed at that point versus having to go back and say, can I redirect $50,000 that we agreed to spend here and spend it over there, to give them more flexibility and to do their job more efficiently and effectively, so that we are getting ourselves out of the hole instead of getting ourselves into a deeper hole.
Perfectly said.
Okay. Because I support that. I think I've met with the team at various events around town, and I so appreciate and I don't know if everyone can really appreciate the insight these guys have shared, the level of detail to go into each building. And I know they're blown away with what we've been up against, but to attack each one of these problems as efficiently, as effectively as humanly possible, knowing how tight we are with our funds, I so appreciate what's gone down.
So
Brent.
yeah, I that's fine. I think that both the town population and probably the warrant committee would want to have some sort of scaffolding on this, perhaps in the form of high school allocation X, middle school allocation Y, but which you could easily do by just adding up these numbers so that there's some structure to what the total amount is. I think if we just say, oh, we urge the town to approve 1.5 million.
Agreed.
That probably won't fly as well.
Yep. No, I don't disagree with that, Brent. I think to allocate it per building, so each family that has a child in one of those buildings understands that we're not just putting one big bucket out there. We are addressing each school.
Yeah, I think that would be good. And it says here also just on your document about the outreach, Medfield outreach at the high school to be discussed. Could you just maybe say a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so the outreach program, which is housed now at the high school, it's in the old TV studio. The space right now doesn't serve their needs. Ben, you can speak up when you want. Obviously, we've put a bid package together. We went out on the street hoping to have construction done this summer. Our bids came in over budget. We do have a design and everything ready to go back out on the street. These funds would allow us to go out and hopefully secure a solid contract.
Yeah,
Because I do recall we had this last year, right?
Yeah. I would just piggyback on that, Rob. Yeah, everything came in over budget. We have spent, I believe it's around 30,000 on design. We looked at value engineering once we got the bids back in higher. Even making some, cutting the scope in half, essentially. Reducing the scope really doesn't save us too much on the overall cost. So yeah, unfortunately, with the timing and the way the numbers came in, I think we would have to abandon what we've already spent unless we can get more funding for the project.
Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean that it can't be a project that's moved a year out, because the design's not going to go bad. But like Ben said, we have some money already outlaid. With the bids that came in, we feel that this 100,000 would get us to where we need to be to have construction happen over next summer.
What's the total project cost?
Ben, you have that, was it like 240, I think?
I will pull that up shortly. So we had 3 bids come in. The low bid was at 142,000. And then we had one come in at 213. And then the high sort of outlier was almost at 260,000. So we have about Yeah, I think it was 100 last year.
Yeah, it was
Um,
100 last year.
And then we're proposing, with escalation and tariffs and all that stuff, we want to have a project contingency as well, with an existing building and concealed conditions. We're proposing the 100,000 to have enough to fund the construction and leave a contingency, for any issues that might arise. And, obviously if the money isn't spent, then great. I'm sure, we can obviously turn that back into the stabilization fund.
And those numbers do not reflect design.
Correct.
Artie,
On page 5, there's the park and rec. Can you explain that a little bit? What that money would be used for?
I think that's a greater question. That money's been set aside, I believe, for design for wherever we decide to put them. I don't think that decision's been made yet. It's a placeholder, in my opinion, right now.
That's how I looked at it as well. It's a solid chunk of money. Do we have confidence that that's something that we would take on and spend in FY '27? Seems very nebulous.
Again, I think that this is a decision that needs to be made with a number of committees, not facilities. So we're carrying this number again as a placeholder. Once I'm given more direction, or we have more of a solid foundation to move forward towards, I could answer that question. But unfortunately, right now, I'd have to get back to you on that.
I
Yeah,
I can
appreciate it's a bigger
provide
discussion.
a little
Not
bit
so-
of additional sort of insight, I suppose. Like Rob said, it's a placeholder, sort of a concept, but the idea that we rebid, trying to get a modular at Hinkley Ponds, because it's a great sort of central location for Parks and Rec's operation. And then this theoretically would be, they have a small sort of snack shack building there now. And the idea is, could they build or develop something more permanent there? Because, but again, it's just sort of on the, as a placeholder right now.
And I
Sure.
believe the lead with that would be coming from the Parks and Rec Commission. I mean, there's 5 people in town elected to be on that board, right? So I would, if it was me, Rob, I'd be thinking you'd be looking for that commission to come to you and say, this is what we're thinking. I think it's hard for us to step in and speak to them.
Yeah, and I think they began that conversation this week. They had a meeting on Wednesday. I haven't heard anything yet from them, but I don't know if they came to any conclusions on Wednesday. So.
And then just generally outside of park and rec, the numbers on the pages. I agree with Brent, a little bit of structure around how they total what we're doing. They're very round numbers. It's hard for me to balance the specificity of the other requests with kind of the generalities of these numbers. I'm yearning for a little bit more specificity on how the money will be allocated. It just seems like the money will be spent when something happens. I'm struggling with that, just to be frank.
No, and I agree. If I was sitting on your side of the table, I'd have the same concerns.
Okay.
But unfortunately, facilities isn't the same as the DPW buying a truck.
Agreed.
It's not that black and white, especially right now. Again, moving forward, I think within the next couple of years, we'll have a stronger handle on, future replacement of specific pieces of equipment. I mean, I literally have on my desk right now over $1 million that I could throw out on the street right now for equipment replacement. Is it the right thing to do in this climate? No. Do we want to just throw, the whole, let's say 2 or 3 projects and let the rest lay the way they are? I don't think that's the right way to go. So it's very difficult for me to tell you today, a year and 7 days in, let's do this X, Y, and Z, when I know that there's, again, we've all read the Aero Street report. There's so much to be done. And that's why it needs to be slightly fluid, with the caveat that at the end of the cycle, you'll receive a document that shows exactly how the funds were spent.
I'm trying to find a balance between open-ended and specific. I don't think we'll ever get, I'm not recommending a full list of specific projects, but if you could help.
This is a very, in my mind, is simple, but it's actually, so the town buildings and the school buildings, BMS systems, which is what it's the brains behind your HVAC. Unfortunately, right now, most of our buildings are still on pneumatics, which is air control. We're working towards getting DDC, direct digital controls, which is modern controls, a single platform that's non-proprietary to be used throughout the whole town. That, again, needs to be done in phases. So we've started that process. We did it at Wheelock at the schools. We've actually done it at all the schools. We're starting it, we just did a project at the library. That foundation is there. So I could put that in writing to you and say that the building management systems controls, that's a given across the board. I can't tell you exactly how much funds we're going to spend on that, only because something else may take priority. But so understand that with this being open-ended, there is a process to where we're trying to get. And my hope is, like I said, a year, 2 years in, we're stable. We can build off of those platforms. Michael made a comment about the infrastructure behind a piece of equipment. Right now, the infrastructure isn't solid enough to put a ton of funds towards a single piece of equipment. We're still building that infrastructure.
Eileen?
Yeah, so I want to chime in, and Brittany, you can chuckle when I make this comment, but I think what we're up against when I look at the facilities is, and certainly Rob, correct me if I say this wrong, but we are so reactive right now. Like, I was just at the town hall getting ready for a select board meeting earlier this week. I walked into our town manager's office and oh my God, it was like 1 minute it's boiling hot, the next minute it's freezing cold because the systems just don't work. Now we have employees operating this building, and I expect that we're just putting Band-Aids on these problems. So Brent, you made a comment maybe a half hour or so ago about how, what can the town stomach? What does, what can we bring forward? I'm the fan of, I want everything out there. I know it's so hard to educate all of our residents of this hill we're trying to climb, but the fact of the matter is we are up against buildings that are just falling apart. We can't, and the school building committee drove over to Ashland earlier this week. And on the ride over, Carolyn, Casey, and I both said, what we have to avoid is another fast center. Like, if Dale Street goes sideways, this town has a massive problem on its hands. So when I look and I hear what Ben and Rob are saying right now, it's not pretty, but we have to get ahead of a disaster. So I actually welcome the warrant committee putting all the ugly numbers out there, and for whatever residents pay attention, and I know Chris, you're on, so God willing it goes into the insider. We have buildings that are falling apart, and we have to be able to figure out how do we at least keep them running versus just literally having another fast center on our hands, whether it's Dale Street, whether it's parts of the town hall. It's just something that it's not going away, and it's not a pretty message, but people need to know what we're up against.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, I'd just like to follow up. I like the idea of, once again, doing some totals by each building so people can see that. For instance, the high school is 105,000 plus the outreach offices, so that it'll give a little bit more structure to that. I think that works good. I have no issue with you keeping things very fluid, because you've got to kind of work through things. I'm sure you must feel at times it's just overwhelming as far as like, where do I start to try to get a handle on trying to get things, up to where they need to be to move forward. So I don't have any issues with these chunks of monies per building to give you the flexibility to fix things as you're working, going through the year, with the promise that you'll give us, next year kind of where the money was spent, and that way we can kind of see, how things worked out. I think that's the only way we can do it, because there's too many things for you to try to react to.
Brent.
Yeah, this is just me telling you that I have to switch to another meeting at 10:30. So,
Okay.
if we're going to adjourn, I can vote to adjourn. But if we're not, I'll have to just sign off.
Okay. I would like us to come back to this right next Friday. I'd like to see the list in at least a spreadsheet that can total. I'd love to maybe talk with you further, Rob, about how we could maybe do some identification of some projects, and especially things that involve like the Medfield outreach. We should be seeing a total of the total project, identifying the different funding sources. Same with Park and Rec, just kind of where they fit in pieces rather than these lump placeholders that we're being asked to approve. I like the idea of like developing some scaffolding for the numbers. And how about, or would you be in a position to come next week and tell us about the spending, the last year's spending that you were allocated? Can you talk about that? Would that be a good descriptor of like what you plan to do? Like a year from now, you said you'd come and tell us what you did. Can you come to us next week and tell us how this year's money was spent?
Sure, I can tell you, but unfortunately, we're 4 months into the year. We haven't even hit the heating season, so a lot of the funds most likely won't have been allocated yet. So, but I could do whatever you'd like.
Okay, I think, well, that would just give us some context of like your
Sure.
the
No, I agree.
big bit, but the bunches that were approved, how they're actually, playing out, to give us some comfort on that. And then I guess a question, I don't know if it's for you, Brittany, or Andrew in the audience, like what level of specificity do we need to be taking to town meeting, and from a accounting standpoint or a management standpoint going forward? Is it by building? Is it by, envelope or HVAC? Just kind of what we need for that.
I think that might be something that we need to get back to you on. And so maybe Megan and Rob and we can meet with Andrew and Christine when she's back in the office and kind of go through that, what that looks like.
Great. Okay, so for now, I think I would love to thank you for bringing the request, for your thoughtful conversation, and my committee's thoughtful questions, and plan to regroup again next Friday, assuming we can make some progress this week on some of these topics. How does that sound? Good.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Rob?
Yeah. Oh,
Egler?
which
Yeah.
one?
Sorry. Yeah.
Which one?
You, Rob Egler.
Rob, you may have alluded to this earlier today, but I would like to get a discussion both by your department and also by the Permanent Building Committee as far as their reactions to the Arrow Street report. Because I think that's going to be, obviously, that's going to be very, very crucial in terms of how we go forward with what I would say is a staggering wish list. Not wish list, but a number of projects that are just in priorities 1 and 2.
So what would you like from me?
Really just your reaction to the Arrow Street report in terms of just any comments you'd like to make on that, and also the what the Permanent Building Committee, what their comments are. And we can save this for the next, the next meeting. So,
Okay, why don't we do that
mhm.
and devote the, and I'll see what we can learn from the, permanent building planning committee.
Yeah.
Quick question for Rob. Did you present to the select board based on the report? I think you did, yes? Did we cover that in one of our select board meetings? Because if so, I could certainly make that recording available for anyone that wants to hear the discussion the select board had regarding. the
Yes.
building.
Yeah, I think Megan shared that recording with you. I
But-
think that was, and that was the permanent planning and building committee were there too, and Ben was there.
Okay.
It was July
One.
July
1st,
1. Yep.
something, yeah.
Okay. That's our plan. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I will motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Eileen. Would anyone like to second the motion to adjourn?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mark. All right, we'll take a little vote here. Mark,
Yes.
Artie,
Yes.
Eileen,
Yes.
Rob,
Yes.
Megan, yes. Okay, see y'all next Friday. And Rob, I'll be in touch.
Great. Have a good
We'll
weekend,
connect.
guys.
Ben, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.